All right, welcome to Touchdown Talks. I'm Spencer Taylor. This is going to be my reaction to Week 8 of the NFL 2024 season that we just finished off on Monday night. I'm recording this just a few hours after the Steelers' massive win over the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. So when you watch this, be Tuesday, this video will come out, but 8 weeks are complete for the NFL season. We're nearing the midway point, but we've still got a few weeks to go before that. Can't believe how fast this season has gone, and we are through the October schedule for the NFL season this year, outside of the one Thursday night game that we will get on Halloween. But that aside the point, this is going to be my quick reaction to Week 8, mostly focusing on one game in particular. If you've watched my content and you know my favorite team, my preferences, you may be able to tell from back there a little bit. Actually, change of plan right here. This video just going to be my Week 8 reaction to all games that I reacted to, aside from the Bears-Commanders game. That video will be a separate video. We'll have it linked in the description and in a card at this point in the video. So if you want to hear my reaction to the other games from the NFL Week 8, stick here on this video. If you want to see my reaction for the Bears versus Commanders game, go to that other video for that. Video just got a little bit too long for my liking to have it all as one part. So this is part 1. Part 2 will be the video covering just the Bears Commanders. But without further ado, let's get on into the video. Starting with Jets at the Patriots, both two very bottom tier teams. For the Jets, things just can't get any worse. Really, they lose again to, of all teams, the Patriots. They lose. I know it's a division game, so maybe that helps the Patriots a bit, but certainly for the Jets, this is far from what they hoped. Since firing Robert Saleh, the Jets still have yet to get a win. In the last month, they've fired Robert Saleh and brought in Davante Adams. It hasn't mattered. They've lost every single game since, and haven't looked much better for Davante Adams. Not great luck for him. He was with the Raiders on the sideline, was still hurt, and they lost to the Steelers. He got traded the very next week with the Jets, played the Steelers again. They lost to the Steelers, and they keep losing. They have not won a single game, as I said, since the firing of Robert Saleh. For the Jets, that defense has regressed. You can tell the impact that firing Robert Saleh has had on the New York Jets, and it's not positive. Sure, Davante Adams joining has helped, but Aaron Rodgers is just not himself. I, like many, would not be surprised at all if Aaron Rodgers decides to retire at the end of this season, and whether he does or not, it's very likely that we see the Jets become sellers as we approach the trade deadline here in the next few days and weeks. So, we're getting very close to that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing the Jets maybe sell some pieces. And yeah, by the offseason, I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers hangs it up, because he just does not look like himself. Can't run at all, which used to be a huge part of his game. And I mean, honestly, the Jets don't look much better off with him than they did with Zach Wilson, of all people, at quarterback. And as I said, to the credit of Robert Saleh, not only him, but also with Jeff Ulbrich, who is now the interim coach. He was the defensive coordinator. So that move of firing Robert Saleh is really head-scratching to me so early in the season, because if you really wanted to still have any chance of turning things around while you had Aaron Rodgers, and if you were just going to go trade for Davante Adams a couple weeks later anyways, it just seems illogical to fire Robert Saleh when the thing that he should be good at, defense, is the thing that the Jets were already excelling at. And so obviously if you remove him from the head coach duties and you make the defensive coordinator now become the head coach, that's just going to leave even that much more of a coaching hole on the defensive side. And so you've seen it on the defense for the Jets. You've seen the impact of that. Their defense just looks middle of the road at best at this point. Before they fired Robert Saleh, the defense was honestly one of the few things about the Jets that was looking pretty good earlier on in the season. But now even that is no good. The offense just, again, with the way Aaron Rodgers is playing these days, it's not good enough. They're no good. Losing 25-22 to the Patriots of all teams. Moving on to Eagles-Bengals in Cincinnati. This was a surprising game in the sense that the Bengals went into the game favored. I had expected the Bengals to quite possibly win and possibly cover. It was a pretty close line. I think by kickoff it was close to around 2 to 2.5 in favor of Cincinnati. Of course, pretty close to kickoff. I can't remember if it was on Sunday or the day before. It was announced that T. Higgins was going to be out for the game. So, of course, as soon as you heard that, T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, missing one of those two, the Bengals have... missing either of those two, the Bengals have struggled quite a bit. And Joe Burrow, as good as he is, his stats go down when either of those two aren't there. So missing T. Higgins, as soon as that came out, I was, it certainly felt very possible that could help the Eagles' odds out a bit. But either way, I had expected at least that this game was going to be close. It was not. The Eagles dominated the game, winning 37-17. And, I mean, for either one of these teams that lost this game, there would have been a bit of concern for either of them playoff-wise. But especially for the Bengals, them being the one to lose, there's certainly a lot of questions about their playoff chances. Personally, I would say pump the brakes on being too worried about the Bengals right now. I know their record isn't good. They've got a lot of work to do. But they've dug themselves into a very deep hole. We can say that's for sure. At 3-5, they have a hole to dig out of, but if you look at the AFC playoff picture and the way things are shaping out, I, like many who have looked at the math of the upcoming schedule for a lot of these teams in the AFC and the way the wild card picture is shaping out, especially in the AFC, it's very likely that one or two of those wild card spots probably going to be teams that are 9 wins. I know earlier today in an interview, Joe Burrow was talking about how, it was either today or Sunday in an interview, Joe Burrow talked about how he's not too concerned because mathematically doesn't feel like they're out of it. He talked about how he feels like he and the team need to get to 10 wins, and that should get them in the playoffs, which I agree. Usually 10 wins in the current playoff format is the benchmark you need to reach at minimum. But my point is, with the way the AFC playoff picture is shaping out, they might not even actually need 10 wins. 9 wins might even do it. Now, 9 or 10 wins, that's still, that's still asking for quite a bit of improvement from the Bengals from where they're at right now. Being at 3-5 right now, obviously they got quite a ways to go. Even just to go 9-8, even just to go 9-8, you're gonna have to go 6-3 throughout the rest of the season. So that's not gonna be the easiest. I mean, they've got a doable schedule, though. Looking ahead at the Bengals season, very doable, though. Okay, not very doable, but I would say as far as doing much better than they have, it's a doable schedule. They don't have the hardest schedule remaining out of any team. They've got the Raiders, at Baltimore, obviously that'll be a tough one, at the Chargers, then you got a bye. Then you're against Pittsburgh, at Dallas, at Tennessee, and then you're at home for Cleveland, the Broncos, and then finishing out the season in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. So Steelers twice, you got one more time with the Ravens and the Browns. You got the Broncos in there, you got the Texans in there, the Chargers in there, Raiders this upcoming week. So you still got a bye coming up in week 12, which is a later bye. That's a pretty good bye to have if you want to, have a break right in time to get ready for the final stretch of the season. So I think it's doable. If you win based off predictions I would make right now, I think it's very possible that the Bengals still do reach at least 10 wins. Even if you lose to the Ravens coming up, let's say you split against the Steelers and maybe you lose one to either the Chargers or maybe the Browns, you'll be at about 10. You'll be at 10 wins there, 10, 11 wins. You also got Dallas. That one could be a winnable one. Dallas is struggling a lot, so getting 10 or again even 9 wins possibly could do it. I think for the Bengals, they're certainly not out of the playoff race yet, but they do certainly need to start turning things around more so than they have so far. For the Bengals, it's not over yet, but they're getting pretty close to must-win territory every week going forward. For the next game, Packers-Jags, Packers managed to get another win out, even without Jordan Love finishing the whole game. Love did go out of the game shortly after halftime with a groin injury. They're going to have to see how things shape out with him. They've got the Lions coming up this week, and then they're on their bye. Many are speculating that, especially with how well they've been able to play, even with Will Levis at quarterback, it's very possible what the Packers may do is just sit Jordan Love this upcoming week against the Lions, which, again, it's a divisional game, very important game, but the Lions are so strong, they're likely going to win the division anyways. So, again, you still hope to win with Malik Willis in at quarterback, but, for the sake of the rest of the season, what many are speculating is, you certainly don't push Love too hard to come back in or anything. You're okay if he sits this week. He sits out for the Lions game, doesn't get beat up in that one. Then you have your bye. That gives Jordan Love 2 full weeks to heal and repair, and by after 2 weeks, maybe he's able to come back in, and then you're ready to make a run through the last half of the schedule. Either way, for the Packers, they've been astounding with or without Jordan Love. Obviously, they're better looking with Jordan Love, but they've, huge credit to that coaching staff. They look really good. And speaking of the coaching staff, Matt LaFleur did bring on Robert Saleh to the Packers, bringing him in as sort of an advisory kind of fluid role is what has been reported. Matt LaFleur said that they brought Saleh in for the purpose of kind of advising the offense, being that Saleh is a defensive guy. He wants Saleh's advice on, okay, if I was coaching another defense against this Packers offense, this is what I would do here. So kind of an advisory role right now. But with Saleh being on the Packers now and the Packers beating the Jaguars, Robert Saleh has gotten a win before the Jets and Aaron Rodgers since being fired as the Jets coach. And, of course, because he was fired and the way the contract works out, he's still getting paid by the Jets to be in an advisory role for another team. So, not a good beat there for the Jets. Lions-Titans. Lions dominated that game 52-14. Falcons at the Buccaneers. The Falcons got the win here, 131-26 in Tampa. And with that, the Falcons have swept the Buccaneers. Those two teams have played their 2 games for the season against each other. So honestly, for that NFC South race, with the Falcons and the Buccaneers certainly being the best 2 teams of that division, and it, for the last few years being a very much a division of whoever gets closest to 500 or above 500 is likely going to win the division. Still pretty much the case, but this year it's very much been it's going to continue to be a close race between the Buccaneers and Falcons, in my opinion. But certainly for the Falcons, having swept the Buccaneers is a huge deal, because even if you end up tied record-wise, you'll have the tiebreaker based off of head-to-head matchups. So that's going to help the Falcons' odds quite a bit for making the playoffs over the Buccaneers. And of course, for the Buccaneers, they've got plenty more concerns outside of that, especially being that, again, the Buccaneers, it just feels like you're, lost mojo. Obviously, it's not a great mood, being that you lost Godwin for the season. Mike Evans is out for a good amount of time, so unfortunately for the Bucs, it's they're going to be a little bit more hard pressed to not drop a bunch of games here coming up, and they've got a pretty tough stretch the next couple weeks. They've got the Chiefs and then the 49ers this next 2 games. Then they do have a bye, and then after that, after their bye week, from week 12 on, the Buccaneers do have a pretty winnable schedule after that. But again, losing Chris Godwin, and depending on how long Mike Evans is out, that's a huge loss for the Buccaneers. And currently, Next Gen Stats has the Buccaneers' chance of making the playoffs at 24%, while the Falcons' playoff percent is up to, that was for winning the division. Chance to win the division for the Buccaneers is down to 24. Their chance to make the playoffs is down to 47, while for the Falcons, Next Gen Stats has their chances to win the division as 72%, chance to make the playoffs 79%. Honestly, I think, the NFC South isn't going to get a wild card team. I'd be very surprised if they do. It's going to be between those 2 teams for whoever wins the division, and the Falcons having the head-to-head over the Buccaneers already secured. That's a huge win for their chances to make the playoffs this year. Cardinals at the Dolphins. Heartbreaker for the Dolphins. I feel bad for Dolphins fans. You got Tua back. That was the good thing. And the Dolphins look much better with Tua on the field. It was a huge day for Tua. And for Dolphins fans, it was a much better feeling game throughout most of it. But in the end, heartbreaker. Cardinals get into field goal range and hit the walk-off field goal to end the game. Cardinals win 28-27. And so it just very much a heartbreaker for the Dolphins, because even though you had all the excitement of Tua being back, Tyreek Hill being super excited, all of that, the Dolphins fall to 2-5. The AFC East picture is insane. You have the Bills at 6-2, and then the rest of the division only has 2 wins each. Dolphins 2-5, Patriots 2-6, and then the Jets 2-6. So, and for the Dolphins, Next Gen Stats has their playoff chances now at only 5%. So, for the Dolphins, pretty much at this point, you need to win out. Pretty much impossible for the Dolphins to make the playoffs at this point. Sorry to say it, but you don't have the easiest schedule either coming up. You're at Buffalo this upcoming week, at the Rams. Then you've got home against the Raiders, home against the Patriots. Those are winnable. On the road against the Packers. Then you got Jets, Texans, 49ers, Browns, and finishing it with the Jets. So some winnable ones in there, but certainly being that you're at a state where you pretty much need to win out at this point, again, minus, maybe dropping 2 or 3. If you're going to make the playoffs in that wild card picture, Dolphins really can only afford to lose maybe 2 or 3 games the rest of the season. And, I mean, certainly facing off against the Bills, the Rams, the Packers, Houston, the 49ers, it's pretty hard to, just with those games on the schedule, not even to mention the others, just those ones I just mentioned, it's hard to see them, not losing at least 2 or 3 of those. So, Dolphins, unfortunately, I do not believe the Dolphins are making the playoffs this year. And the questions are starting to pile up for the Dolphins as far as the coaching goes. But won't go any further into that. Ravens at the Browns. The Browns got a massive upset win against the Ravens. Not a good day for Deshaun Watson, in that the Browns looked the best they've looked all season. This was the first game of the season that the Browns passed 20 points in a game. And also I saw that in, I believe it's 19 games with the Browns in his career, Deshaun Watson has 0 games of 300-plus passing yards. And between Jameis Winston and Joe Flacco in 6 of 7 starts, those 2 quarterbacks have been able to get over 300 yards as Browns quarterbacks. So, not a good look for Deshaun Watson being out. And Browns looked much better with Jameis Winston in, and that was even with having traded Amari Cooper away. So, the Browns get a massive upset win there against their rival. Of course, they're at the bottom of the division. Browns pretty much out of the playoff race at this point, but I mean, certainly if there's any chance at a wild card, that was a huge one for them. Colts at the Texans. Texans got the win, 23-20. Wasn't the most pretty game for either sides, and of course, the thing that's going to get talked about from this game is the ugly for the Colts. Anthony Richardson, late in the game, had a moment where he kind of went down, was slow to get up, and then tapped his helmet, signaling that he needed to come out of the game, went to the sideline. He did return to the game later, and everybody was wondering, okay, what happened? After the game, I don't know why he admitted this. Everybody's been saying it today, but he really should have, just lied and said, oh, I had muscle cramps or something. He should have made up something, but he told reporters, I'm not going to lie, which appreciate the honesty, but for your own interest, you shouldn't be this honest. He said that the reason he tapped out and went out of the game when he did was because he was tired. So for a pro NFL player to say that they tapped out and needed to come out of the game because they were tired, that's pretty crazy. And certainly for quarterbacks, basically unheard of as far as I know. That's and I know that the Colts head coach, after their marks and stuff today, it sounds like they're, the Colts are not totally against the idea of, especially with how things have been going with Richardson and after him saying stuff like that, there's certainly calls for the Colts to just start Joe Flacco over him going forward. Saints at the Chargers. Saints, this is the moment that'll get talked about most from this game. Chargers did win, but the play that's getting talked about is where a Saints defensive lineman Justin Herbert gets the ball out, throws it, does not have the ball, and has a Saints defensive lineman around his legs and basically trying to, just a dirty play. I'm sure you've seen it. From what I hear, what he was doing is called a gator roll. Basically, very obviously trying to hurt Justin Herbert, and the Chargers center was having none of it. He hurried and quickly tackled the Saints defensive lineman, got him off of Justin Herbert, and after the game, Coach Jim Harbaugh actually gave Bradley the game ball for the Chargers, so I thought that was pretty cool to hear, rewarding his center for protecting the franchise quarterback. A really great move. Moving to Bills Seahawks. Not a good looking game for Geno Smith and the Seahawks at home. Bills win on a long road trip, win 31-10. It was a wet game. The conditions certainly affected the game for both sides, but the Bills easily dominated that game. Panthers at the Broncos. Broncos got the win 28-14. I also saw a stat this week that the Panthers have trailed by 3 possessions or more in 7 games so far. So, Panthers have had a bad year. Chiefs at the Raiders. Chiefs took care of business, won 27-20. Didn't beat the Raiders by a huge margin. Certainly in rivalry games with the Raiders, the Chargers sometimes. Chiefs don't always really blow either of those teams out always, but quite often do manage to get the win against those two in their division. Sunday Night Football last night, Cowboys at the 49ers. This is a non-divisional, but still very much a rivalry between these two historically, and certainly in recent years. And with the results of last night, the 49ers have beat the Cowboys, I believe, 4 straight times. And in very quick succession, a couple times in the playoffs now, others in the regular season, of course. Cowboys under Kyle Shanahan with the Niners versus Kyle Shanahan versus the Cowboys. They have dominated, and there were moments where things didn't quite go well or look super perfect for the 49ers. They had late in the fourth quarter, it was kind of in garbage time, but the game was still within 2 possessions. The 49ers inexplicably to me allowed CeeDee Lamb to get wide open on 3 straight plays, resulting in a very quick drive that ended in a touchdown for CeeDee Lamb. He had receptions of 21, 29, and 20 yards in those 3 catches. So they were that drive was very quick. All passes to CeeDee Lamb, and all of them, I could not believe that the 49ers were leaving him that wide open. Again, did get the win 30-24, and for most of the game, they dominated. Dallas was leading at half, but really in the third quarter especially, the 49ers had 21 unanswered points, and so that was really where they dominated the game. And with that part of the game, it really felt like the 49ers played and were the better team. Cowboys, of course, still the same issues, just can't run the ball, and that makes it tougher on the offense for other reasons. Their defense is still hurt, not playing the best. Moving into Monday Night Football really quick, Steelers dominated at home against the Giants. At half, it was 9-9, but then in the second half, that was where the Steelers pulled away, won 26-18. This was another good game for Russell Wilson. He had some bad moments, but for the most part, he looked like the better version of Russell Wilson that most of us would think of from his Seahawks days. Certainly better than his stint with the Broncos. But for Monday Night Football and for the Steelers, I have some pretty crazy stats that just kind of blow your mind away. The Steelers now have won 22 straight home games on Monday Night Football. That streak goes all the way back to 1992. And all-time, the Steelers are 56-31-1 in Monday Night Football. So the Steelers have a very good time when they play Monday Night Lights action. So, and it was a fun one to watch. Certainly, if you were a Steelers fan, that one was fun. Also, this season, another really crazy stat for the Steelers. In the third quarter this season, the Steelers have scored 53 points, and allowed 0 points in the third quarter. So, if you want to place any weird bets on, third quarter money lines, put your money on the Steelers in the third quarter. They dominate in the third quarter for whatever reason. Certainly huge credit to Mike Tomlin. I was one of those who, yet again, coming into the season, I was doubting Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Certainly not so much Mike Tomlin. I very much respect him as a coach. But, you could say, again, to some extent, I was certainly disrespecting in extent him a bit. I did not, coming into the season, I didn't think this going with two quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields as your starting quarterbacks, no commitment to which one was going to be it. I did not think this was going to work. Obviously, the Steelers defense is going to be good every year, but they've been amazing, and the offense with both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson has played pretty well. And certainly since Russell Wilson's come in this last couple weeks, he has looked like his old self, which is crazy to see. Steelers are now at 6-2 and actually currently lead the division because the Ravens lost to the Browns. The Steelers currently sit at the top of the AFC North, which is not something I expected to see. They currently have Steelers' playoff chances right now are at 88%. And their chances to win the division are at 47, just below the Ravens' chances at 48 to win the division. So, NFC North race very tight between the Steelers and Ravens. Bengals behind them, of course, with chances, in my opinion, to make the playoffs as a wild card team. Speaking of that, Next Gen Stats does have the Bengals' playoff chances at 29%. And those are lower chances, but I do think that as I said earlier, I think the Bengals do still have a chance to make that 29% happen. But yeah, for the Steelers, great win on Monday Night Football. With that, this video has gone on far longer than I intended. I may even break this up into two parts. Bears talk separate from the other video. But if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, leave a like rating, comment down below what you thought of Week 8, comment what you thought of any particular game, how is your team doing. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video.